So the person who is going to use the clicker is going to switch between one of two slides. One is blue, which means pro, I'm for this topic, and one is red, which means I am against this topic. And anytime they like, or anytime anybody in the audience indicates that they would like to go in this direction, they can press this button, and I have to switch my argument. This would also make a lot more sense if I explained the pretense to you first. So the idea here is to make me as uncomfortable as possible. So the person I'm looking for, the audience, is the person who likes me the least. So I'm going to give it to Uli. So, yeah. So the idea is somebody from you is going to suggest a topic. It can be anything you like. It can be Kotlin, Compose. It can be Android related. It doesn't have to be Android related. But somebody is going to suggest a topic, and I have to talk about that. So think very hard and deep, and think about if you want to be kind to me or if you want to be cruel. Uli, please come up here. You can take this. And once we get the technical part sorted, I think we can make a start. How are we looking? There will be no cheese. So, hello everyone, I'm Ash, and sorry for leaving you waiting, so please go back to the first slide. Yeah, that's me. The emojis are a bit different on Windows. But yeah, so the idea of this talk is going to be somebody here in the audience is going to suggest a topic. And then I have to talk about that topic for the duration that it stays on the blue slide, which is controlled by our friend Uli here. Uli, sorry. Uli. So, please show us the first slide. This means that I can talk positively. It's a good argument. The thing you're doing is good and should be continued. The next slide. Bad. Shouldn't do this. Angry, angry, angry. And I don't get to decide on which one is which. So, where's my beer? It's here. Very important part. So let's start it off. My lovely audience, thank you all for coming, and also, why did you come? Please, can you shout out now, in an orderly fashion, some ideas for topics? Android development in Java. You're just not a nice person, are you? Any other suggestions? Beer? I can talk a lot about that, but I can't find excuses for it being bad. Sorry? Robbing? Mobbing. Let's stick with, what was it, the first one? Android development? Or Java, Android development for Java. OK. Android development for Java. So that is our topic. And let's begin. My name tag has fallen off. However will I continue if you don't know who I am? So Android for Java is a really good thing because Java as a platform, it's very strong and widely adopted. So, you know, it's easy to reach a lot of people in a very kind of secure way. But Java's really bad. You should never use Java. It's like, it's always out of date, and the Android operating system, it can't keep it up to date, so we're always stuck with Java 8. We can't even use the new features of Java 16, for example. It's just so mad. You just don't want to use Java for Android. It's not a very good idea. Except if you do want to actually kind of cater for a lot of people, then you do want to find a large audience. And the thing about Java is that there is a lot of people using it. And there's a lot of people using the platform, so you actually kind of keep it widespread and keep it going, and you actually have a lot of audience, and that audience is terrible. They're absolute bastards. You don't want to reach these people. Why should you code for somebody if they can't even switch to Kotlin? My God, it's just terrible. So yeah, why should you kind of compensate for these people if they can't even figure out how to use a new language? So yeah, using Java for Android, just an absolutely terrible idea. Unless you want to maintain compatibility. I mean, you know, who wants to learn new technologies? Kotlin is, yeah, okay, it's been around for a few years, but who knows if it's actually going to be around for much longer. It's like really terrible, but it's so exciting and new. And if you can use new technologies, why not use new technologies? It's a really good idea. Like, just to play around with these things. And like, oh, fuck, who needs stability, right? Like, we're Android developers. We don't need stability. Like, that's just for silly people. I'm running out of steam here. I'm not finished. I said I was running out of steam. I'm not finished. I just needed some beer. Mind you, I should just probably accept that I'm finished. Or at least I'll be finished after this talk. So, yeah, using Java in Android world is actually a very good idea because you do want to maintain compatibility. You do want to actually use these things. And if you're running in the JVM environment, then why not embrace it, you know? Like, we have Dalvik, we have ART, and these things are fucking terrible. And they're great at the same time. Thanks. So we have Dalvik and ART, but like, who wants to use those? They're just like, oh, let's just kind of quit Android and go on to web, you know? Like, back when things were fun, back when you could use any programming language you wanted, and you don't have to download apps, and you don't have to sync, but the Play Store is so great. Because it allows, you know, like a central authority for downloading applications. Like, I feel secure. I can sleep at night knowing that Google has my back. I feel really happy about this. You know, why wouldn't you want to only distribute through a single app store? Because that's terrible. Like, if you can only distribute to one app store, then that's just, you think about all the people you're missing. Think about China. Think about developing markets. Like, through a single app store, wow, you're limiting your opportunities here. Like, you're really kind of closing yourself off. That's just awful. We don't want to do that. We want to like reach and embrace and help as many users as we can. So, yeah, only want to distribute through the Play Store because this is secure, and the people that you are reaching are going to be, you know, upstanding members of society. We know that only people that can afford to use the Play Store will be using the Play Store. So if you, for example, have in-app purchases, and you want to reach people who have money to burn, then definitely you don't want to go through some damn it. So this was the whole idea of this talk, was for me to be put in such an uncomfortable position. So much so that this is so terrifying, I will never be scared of my slides again. Nothing can go so spectacularly badly. Do you want a topic change? No, what are we on for time? 53. What time do we start? 50. Let's carry on, why not? So, of course, you don't want to distribute exclusively through the Play Store. You do want to try and engage as many marketers as possible. So, you know, using Java for Android is just not a very good scalable strategy unless you want to really maintain this. There's a lot to be said about API compatibility. And personally, I'm a big fan of this, if the slides let me say so. Actually, that's it. That's all I've got. I'm going to have to end it here. Thanks, everyone. Questions? Acceptable questions are, why do I hate myself enough to do this? And what are you doing here? One more topic? All right, fuck it, let's keep going. One more topic.
Data binding.
Data binding. Oh, that's a good one. Data binding, I could flip-flop on that all day. But I need my beer first. So we're pro data binding. So data binding was really cool because it's introduced to kind of bridge this data gap between your view model or your view state between you know, your actual domain level world and your actual UI world. So it was really cool, but at the same time it forced you to use XML, and nobody likes XML. There was a lot of data, a lot of kind of domain logic going on inside your XML binding, and it was just not palatable for a lot of people. Because if you're having to kind of cross that boundary between using Kotlin and XML, then you're going to forget a lot of things. But at the same time, it's actually very beneficial that you can put this into an XML kind of format. So, whilst XML is not our favorite coding languages, it actually is very powerful still. It's very loose, very kind of dynamic, very extensible, and you can do a lot with it. So actually, it did make a lot of sense for us to start using data binding if we hated ourselves enough. Because it's absolute torture. Have you tried going through these XML layouts, trying to find out where the bug is? My God. Oh, I wouldn't wish that on my enemies. So, I predict. Who could have ever predicted that it might go from red to blue? So unexpected. But data binding did bridge a gap that we needed at the time. It did a lot for us. Because when we were trying to do this kind of laborsome and cumbersome logic of assigning text to text views, it's very tedious, right? You shouldn't have to kind of set a click listener explicitly, except you should. Because if you don't set a click listener explicitly, then you're going to end up with unexpected logic. So why shouldn't you do this manually and explicitly? It makes a lot more sense to avoid XML entirely. So you want to stick to the kind of environment world. And this is why data binding is bad. But on the other side, data binding opened a really good opportunity for us, and we now use view binding quite extensively in our applications, if you're not already using Compose. But view binding was the kind of result of this effort and all this work that data binding went into, which was really cool. So you have to admire and respect the effort that went into it. Except you shouldn't, because they're terrible people, and they should, feel bad about that. Whoever came up with data binding should, be publicly shamed. Because it's just terrible, right? If you're not using Compose, why would you even opt for this scenario of just hurting yourself? Because it's so great. And these binding operations, think about how simple it should be to just apply a click listener or apply some sort of phasing transition or something. Why should you have to go through all these hoops and calculate all this logic manually when it can be done automatically through data binding? Nobody should do this, because it's not clear, it's ambiguous, it's very kind of confusing. And if you're going through this new code base as a new developer, then you will not be able to find out why this data binding expression exists or why this binding. Goodbye, people. Oh. Thank you for joining. Why this data binding expression exists, or what's going on here. It's very unclear and very kind of not known to people what's going on. And how could they know? Because it's magic. And when you've got magic going on in your code base, you don't need to worry. You just can be happy about that. So it removed this level of abstraction for developers, so we can just be sitting in our living room drinking tea and just not having to worry about this stuff. It was a fantastic evolution in Android development in the history of our lives. And I'm going to leave it there. Thank you, everybody.